Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Just Parlays with Chris King. I'm Jim Williams, and Chris, yesterday, my friend, was not a bad day.
No, it wasn't unless you were a fan of the USC Trojans, like we were talking about in the pre-show. USC, I guess, decided not to show up. Like you said, they were probably looking forward to Saturday's game against UCLA, but unfortunately, they put those speed bump games in the middle where you have to actually play them, and USC forgot to play basketball for about 30 minutes.
They forgot that they were one of the top 20 teams in the country. It was one of those, oops, there we are.
Yeah,
But
especially when you're facing a Pacific team that, like we said yesterday, was 0-9 on the road and hadn't even covered in a road game.
and they didn't get up until they were in the 50s. So, that game, what? It ended in the 70s, right?
Yeah, it was final score was, let me check here. Obviously, Pacific covered, much to my chagrin, 74-68.
So that's that's one of those things where you sit back and go, how did that happen?
That's what I was looking at the box or looking at the score all the way through.
They sleptwalked their way through the through the whole thing. So things happen, and we do what we can do. But anyway,
Indiana were the two most disappointing teams, I think, yesterday from the ones that we had on the board. Indiana, they lost by 8 at Northwestern, and they only scored 51 points. That was disheartening to see Indiana get basically stifled by a Northwestern team that, let's face it, isn't that good.
Well, let's talk. Welcome back to Just Parlays with Chris King, and I'm Jim Williams. As we said, we had a pretty decent day yesterday. As a matter of fact, a very good day. And what we'd like to do is tell you about our buddies at Caesars, because Caesars has got a deal for you, okay? And the deal is for, the folks who are here at Winners and Whiners. The Caesars Sportsbook and their specific app, which we highly recommend. What they're going to do is they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50, okay? You have to use the promo code, which is in the show box below, which is Winners, and that's WHINERSCZR, and all the information on that is in the show box below. But not to worry. During the course of the show, we will run the crawl, and you'll get all that information. So once again, Caesars Sportsbook has a deal, and the deal is that they're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 in the account and you use the promo code, which, as I said before, is in the show box below, and we'll be scrolling under Chris and I throughout the course of the show. Now, one other deal we have, and it's with our buddies at BetMGM. And for Winners and Whiners fans, they're going to give you a risk-free first bet of up to $1,000 for all new customers, but only when you deposit at least $10 to start. They are asking that you use our famous and very important bonus code, which is Video Winners. Okay, so there's all that information. We will scroll it under our wonderful pictures here in just a few minutes so that you can follow it, but it's in the show box below. So take advantage of what's going on with Caesars and with the folks at MGM. Remember, you have to be 21 years of age to participate, and by all means, always bet responsibly. Okay, all right. So meanwhile, back at the ranch, my friend. We are at the midst of having some fun stuff going on in college tonight, and let's see what's going on out in the West.
Actually, we're in the East.
Or on the other coast, which is east of West.
Well, first, let's give a shout out to Joaquin. He hit a couple of parlays yesterday. Good for him. See you too, Sly and B. I figured James will be around here somewhere eventually.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll show up. I know IUPUI doesn't play tonight, so he might not be here. He's always looking forward to the Jaguars. But we'll start in the America East, where Vermont, we've talked about them quite a few times. They're on a roll of late. They take on Binghamton at home. Bearcats 10-10 overall. They're 7-4 in the American East. Vermont 18-4 and 10-0 in the conference. Not only are they 10-0 in the conference, they're 10-0 at home. They face a Bearcats team that's 5-5 on the road. Vermont 113th in scoring offense at 74.3 points a game. They are 7th in field goal percentage. They're 3rd in 2-point shooting at 59.3%. They're 61st in 3-point shooting, and they will kill you at the free throw line. They're 37th in the country at 75.9%. Meanwhile, Binghamton, they're a middle-of-the-road team offensively at 70.7 points a game. They're 134th in field goal percentage. They shoot 50% from two, but they're 307th in the line, which is always trouble. You can't leave points on the floor like that. Binghamton 10-22-1 against the spread in their last 33 after a straight-up win. Vermont 4-1 in their last 5 after an ATS loss. They're 18-7-1 in their last 26 on Wednesday. And in the head-to-head series between these teams, Vermont has a 37-8 lead and in the last 13 meetings. 11 of those 13 wins have come by at least 14 points. The other 2 by 6 and by 9. We've talked about when New Hampshire went to Vermont. We talked about when Stony Brook went to Vermont. They go to Vermont. They get some maple syrup. They get beaten up on the basketball court. They go home and they eat pancakes. I expect the same thing to happen to Binghamton today. At least for them, it's a shorter trip. But the Catamounts, you can't argue with what John Becker's done up there. They're the class of the American East. They'll give somebody a hard time in the opening round of the tournament, barring some fluke where they somehow don't get in. And I bet you there's a lot of Power 5 teams that are hoping that Vermont doesn't get in, or they don't. If they do, they don't see their name underneath them on the bracket, because the Catamounts will scare you. I look for them to take care of business here, run their win streak to 13 games as they prevail. Just as a point of reference, they did beat Yale already this season. They also own wins over App State, Dartmouth, Brown. So they've beaten up on the Ivy League.
Mm-hmm.
They also beat Northern Iowa, who's a good team in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah. Well, they play a good competitive schedule, which is good. And Binghamton, of course, you're talking about pancakes. One of Binghamton's top and most notable alumni, Tony Kornheiser, I'm quite sure will be more than happy to have some of those pancakes. I've seen Tony eat before, and he can put away some pancakes. So
now, who could eat more pancakes? Do you think, Tony Kornheiser or Paul McGuire?
Oh, that's not even close. Paul McGuire. Actually, if you just put anything, in front of the who can eat category, Paul will retire that moniker pretty quickly. So Vermont, we say, and they've been good to us. Vermont has been very good to us over the past month or so. So from Vermont and Binghamton, we go to
Colgate.
Patriot
League. Facing Lehigh. Now, Lehigh, they did pull out a win when these teams first met on the road in Lehigh, winning back on January 4th. They took an 85-81 win. That dropped Colgate to 4-10. Since that point, the Raiders are 8-1 with their one loss, a 4-point road defeat at Boston University. They've won 4 in a row coming into this one. All of them have come by double figures. They beat Lafayette, Bucknell, American, and Holy Cross. So now all of a sudden Colgate is 12-11, but they're 8-2 in the Patriot League, which puts them right in the thick of the race for the conference. They're actually ahead of Navy, who's 9-4, and then you've got a whole bunch of teams that are 7-5, including Lehigh. So watch out for Colgate the way they're playing basketball right now. They're 7-1 at home, Lehigh 3-9 on the road. Colgate is 70. It should say Raiders. I don't know why I put Red Raiders. I was thinking of Texas Tech. But they're 79th in scoring offense. They're 59th in field goal percentage. They knock down 10.3 threes a game, Jim, and they're 5th in the nation in 3-point shooting, getting better than 40% from beyond the arc. So not only are they a volume team from outside, they're efficient, which is something you don't necessarily see at this level, especially in that kind of numbers. Meanwhile, Lehigh is 279th in scoring offense at 67.6 points a game. They're 153rd field goal percentage, 238th in 2-point shooting. But they are 36th in 3-point shooting, but they don't shoot at the same volume that Colgate does.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders 5-1 in their last 6 at home against teams with a road winning percentage below 400. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 at home against teams with a losing road record. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 at home, and they're 7-2 in their last 9 overall. I think Colgate, and yes, as you see, the money line is ugly on that game, but I put it up there just in case anybody wants to chase that as opposed to giving the 12.5 points. I think the Raiders will avenge that loss that they had to Lehigh last month and get the win here to keep rolling for 9 wins in 10 games. Watch out for Matt Langel's team. They're starting to make some noise, and they're favored to win the rest of their games down the stretch, which could put them in really good shape come the Patriot League tournament.
Absolutely, because the Patriot League tournament is one of those situations where the highest seed gets to be home for the games. And so right now, as you say, if things play out as expected, the road to the tournament goes through Colgate.
Yeah, you figure if Colgate wins out, they've got 8 games left after tonight. They would go into the tournament if they went out on a 12-game win streak. They'd be 20-11. That would be it. That could make some noise. Like we said, the Patriot League's a tough conference with Navy and Army and all those teams in there. But like you said, having a home court advantage definitely could work in their favor. And we saw Colgate in the tournament in the last couple of years make some noise, put some scares into people.
Absolutely, and there's a very good chance that there's a team like Colgate, and we talked about Vermont. Vermont has a bit of a pedigree now. Okay,
right.
So they don't necessarily are you going to see them as a 16 seed. Okay, they're more in the 15, 14 seed category. You could see Colgate if they ran the table and won the Patriot League. They might be in one of those 15 play-in games, right?
Right.
So you'll have to see how that plays out. But Colgate has been one of those consistent teams in the Patriot League. And like you said, there's Navy, there's a bunch of them. So we'll have to get Pete Medhurst back on and talk to Pete about the Patriot League. But don't sleep on the Patriot League. There's some pretty decent teams in that.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the regular season finale for Colgate is February 26th. They'll face Navy at home. Like we said, Navy's in second place in the Patriot League, so that could have a lot of impact on seeding as we get into conference tournaments towards the end of the month and the start of March.
Especially if Navy continues to play as well as they've played, you could, that game that you talk about, the final game of the season between those two teams, that could flip the script where the division championship could go, or the conference championship could have to go through Annapolis.
Right, and Navy Saturday is going to try to avenge that meltdown that they had against Army last month as they faced the Black Knights up in West Point. Hopefully they'll have a better showing than when they blew that 27-point lead before falling in overtime at home on January 22nd.
Well, now I know that why Pete Medhurst is busy on Friday. He's driving up to Army.
Yeah, they're at Army, then they're at American on Wednesday, but I know that's right down there in the D.C. area. So
it's right in D.C., in the middle of Northwest D.C. So that's not a tough trip for them.
So we can probably reach Pete anytime between Sunday and when he has to go up to Colgate on the 26th, because after the American game they're at home against Holy Cross and Loyola of Maryland.
Well, there you go.
Before the Colgate contest.
Those are a couple of decent teams. All right, so let's move from the college hardwood. We go to the ice.
Right, and we got the Calgary Flames. They've been on a bit of a roll heading into the All-Star break. They'll face the Vegas Golden Knights. Golden Knights 28-16-3. The Flames 23-13 and 3. The Flames 7-4-4 at home. The Golden Knights 14-6-1 on the road. The Golden Knights coming in on the second game of back-to-back. They shut out Edmonton on the road last night 4-0 behind Laurent Brossoit. So it'll be Robin Leonard 19-12-1 with a 276 goals against, a .910 save percentage, and one shutout in net for Vegas against Calgary's Jacob Markstrom, who's been probably a revelation for the Flames because, let's face it, who expected him to have 7 shutouts to go to the 17, 10, and 5 mark and a 220 goals against plus a 923 save percentage? The Flames are second in the league in goals against. They give up 2.48 per contest. They're behind only Carolina. Meanwhile, the Golden Knights are 19th at 2.96. The Flames 5-0 in their last 5 as a favorite. They're 5-1 in their last 6 overall. They're 4-1 in their last 5 on Wednesday. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against the Western Conference. And one of those interesting stats that people always look at and say, "Oh, I wonder how that happens." The home team's won 10 of the last 11 meetings between these teams, and the favorite has won the last 7. People always wonder, well, why do you pick the favorite instead of picking the underdogs all the time? Well, because for some reason the favorite seems to like winning in some of these games. I just can't figure it out.
Well, I think that, that next to last stat, the home team is 10-1 in the last 11 meetings. Even Stevie Wonder can see that one coming. I would strongly suggest that pay attention when a team's got that number and then that 7-0 in the last meeting. Come on, that's like finding money, right?
Well, right, and like we said, Vegas, they're playing the same game of back-to-back. They had to play in Edmonton. I get it, still in the province of Alberta, but still, it's going to take a toll on you, especially in the later stages of the game. Calgary's a fairly physical team, and the Flames are rested. Plus, they have momentum, and they want to avenge a 3-2 loss in Vegas for before the All-Star break.
It's true that they're in the same province, but it's Canada. Okay, so travel is never easy. Because no matter where you're going through customs. It's a pain in the neck, and and look, we're throwing no shade on Vegas. We've been fans of Vegas all along. So that's
Vegas is a quality hockey team. I'm not going to take anything away from them.
Absolutely.
And it's like playing the second game back to back, and then having to deal with a Calgary team that's rolling right now.
Right. Works
against them.
Absolutely. So sometimes teams that we favor from time to time just get into positions where, one look at that sheet in front of you, and you're looking at, statistics that just simply don't lie. And
as Sly says, in case we were wondering, it's cold up there.
Sly, we appreciate the weather report. Hey, by the way, guys, don't forget to smash that like button and the subscribe button, because we definitely want to have you come back. So, we're likable people. Like us and subscribe. So I did that so that James didn't have to tell me to do it. All right, so we leave the beautiful plains of Calgary to move nextward
to the city of
Philadelphia.
Yeah. The Red Wings on the road against the Flyers. I know the Flyers won 2 straight to head into the All-Star break, but I'm still not sold on them. I mean, let's face it.
Break up the Flyers.
Yeah, we're talking about a Philadelphia team that has 2 double-digit losing streaks this season. I just don't have a ton of faith in them here. Detroit 20-21-6. They're 9 points behind the Bruins for the second wild card spot. Philadelphia 15-22-8. They're 17 points behind Boston. I don't think they're going to make a run. Flyers are 8-10-4 at home. The Red Wings 6-12-3 on the road. Alex Nedeljkovic 13-13-5 with a 290 goals against, a 911 save percentage, and 1 shutout. We'll get the start for Detroit. It'll be Carter Hart 9-14-1 with a 280 goals against, a 915 save percentage, and 1 shutout for Philadelphia. Neither one of these teams are great offensively. The Red Wings are 23rd in goals per game at 2.72. The Flyers are 27th at 2.51. And they can't keep the puck out of their own net. The Flyers are 23rd in goals against at 3.29. The Red Wings are 26th at 3.43. The Red Wings 5-1 in their last 6 games as a favorite, so they don't get to play that role often, but when they do, they seem to have success. The Flyers 5-22 in their last 27 against Eastern Conference opponents. They are 1-10 in their last 11 against teams from the Atlantic Division. They're 1-9 in their last 10 after allowing 2 goals or less, and they're 1-6 in their last 7 when their opponent gives up 5 goals or more in their last game. The Red Wings fell 5-3 at home to the Kings in their final game before the break. The Flyers beat Winnipeg 3-1 at home in their final game before the All-Star break. So Philadelphia, when they play one good defensive game, they tend to not follow it up. As Jesse Ventura used to say when in wrestling commentary, one good move and can't follow it up. The guy's an idiot, McMahon. That sums up the Flyers.
That sums up the Broad Street not so bullies. All right, so we've been on to the college hardwood. We've skated across the ice. Seems about time we head to the association for some fun.
Yep, and we'll go first to Charlotte, where the Chicago Bulls, a narrow favorite at minus 1.5, facing the Charlotte Hornets. The Bulls 33-21. The Hornets are 28-27. Charlotte's 14-11 at home. The Bulls are 14-13 on the road. But the Hornets have dropped 5 straight games coming into this one. The Bulls' 8th in scoring offense at 111.8 points a game. They're first in field goal percentage. They're third in three-point shooting. Charlotte's a good offensive team. Let's not take that away from them. They're second in scoring offense, 15th in field goal percentage, and 8th in three-point shooting. But they struggle on the defensive end of the floor. They're 28th in scoring defense at 114.2 points a game. They're 20th in field goal percentage defense. They're 24th in three-point defense. The Bulls are 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 after a straight-up loss, where they lost 127-124 to Phoenix the other night, a game that shouldn't have been that close. Decided that, they should have played basketball for the last, 15, 16 minutes. The Hornets 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 at home. They are 0-6 in their last 6 on 1 day of rest. And the Bulls have won the last 4 meetings and gone against the spread in these between these teams. Quick look at the injury report for the Hornets. Gordon Hayward is out. He's got sprained ligaments in his ankle. He's out indefinitely. Cody Martin is also out. Jalen McDaniels out. James Bouknight is doubtful with a wrist sprain. For the Bulls, it's the same guys you're used to seeing. Lonzo Ball, he's out till March after knee surgery. Alex Caruso out after the wrist fracture. Derek Jones Jr. out with a finger fracture. Patrick Williams, that wrist ligament tear. You have to wonder if they regret picking him up in the draft so highly, given the injury issues he had. I don't think he had those issues necessarily when he played for Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. And, of course, Ayo Dosunmu is out. He's in the concussion protocols. But even with that, the Bulls still have Zach LaVine. They have Nikola Vucevic. They have DeMar DeRozan. And the Hornets can't stop anybody. Give the points and take the Bulls on the road to get back in the win column.
One other thing that we always point out at this time of the year, keep an eye on the trade deadline situation and the players. We're looking at a lot of rumors are going on at this point in time. Players on the move. So before you bet on any NBA team this time of the year, please spend a little time checking out what's going on. See who might get seated that evening, because there's a lot of. I counted last time I checked 12 really significant potential trades that were going on. Now, will every one of those 12 hit? No. Will 5 of them, 6 of them, 4 of them hit? We don't know, but we darn sure know that teams like the Lakers, teams like I almost said the Eagles, 76ers, and Brooklyn continue to talk about moving Ben Simmons. So there's a lot of talk going on. Whether that talk will become anything other than talk, we will know. But I think it's err on the side of caution that you pay attention to what's going on, because that guy that you may need to get you a victory tonight might not be playing.
Just looking yesterday when we were on the show, we saw that Domantas Sabonis got traded to Sacramento in that deal that brought Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton to Indiana.
Right.
And in the morning, C.J. McCollum had been traded from Portland to New Orleans. So, I mean, we saw a lot of people yesterday. You have to wonder, are we going to see more of it today or leading into tomorrow? Because, the trade deadline comes up right after we'll probably be off the air, right when Scott and Scott come on tomorrow.
Hmm. So I really think that I think the Lakers are going to take a long, hard look about what they can do because they played last night and got waxed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fortunately for us, because we took the Bucks.
right, yeah, exactly. And they were at home, and they had their starting lineup for the first time in about I think they said 10 or 8 or 10 games where they had everybody was present and accounted for, and all they looked at last night was looking at a team picture because pretty much as we said they got they got beat. So keep an eye out.
The final margin was only 15, but that game was over.
Oh, that was ugly.
Yeah, I mean, sure they scored 116 points, but how many of those points came in garbage time after they were already run off the floor?
Well, they're playing against the second team most of the fourth quarter. All right, from the Bulls and the Hornets in Charlotte, we move on.
We're going to go to Cleveland, where the Cavaliers host the San Antonio Spurs. And if there's a team we've talked about that's had problems all season long, it's San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
20 and 34 on the year. Cleveland's 33 and 21. Of course, the Cavaliers made that big deal over the weekend, getting Karis LeVert from Indiana, while flipping out Ricky Rubio's expiring contract and a couple draft picks. That is a big boost for Cleveland. Adds another wing scorer to their lineup, makes them a little bit more dangerous, gives more depth to the rotation. Cleveland 17 and 9 at home. San Antonio 9 and 16 on the road. The Spurs don't stop anybody, and that's not Greg Popovich's style of basketball. They're 24th in scoring defense, giving up 111.5 points a game. They're 21st in field goal percentage defense. They're 19th in three-point defense. And you're facing a Cleveland team that leads the league in scoring defense at 102.1. They're third in field goal percentage defense at 44%. They're fifth in three-point defense at 33.6%. San Antonio is just 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 against teams with a winning record. They're 1-7 against the spread in their last 8 after an ATS win. Cleveland 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 playing on 2 days of rest. They are 21-6-1 against the spread in their last 28 games following an ATS win. And the Spurs have gone just 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 meetings. Taking a quick look here at the injuries. Darius Garland is questionable tonight with a back injury. He's missed the last few. Brandon Goodwin questionable as well. Lauri Markkanen, RJ Nembhard, and of course Colin Sexton is out. For the Spurs, Lonnie Walker is available even though he has a sore knee. Everybody else seems pretty much healthy for the Spurs. But it's not going to matter because they don't stop anyone on the defensive end. And when you're facing a team like Cleveland that actually plays defense, and Cleveland's playing defense like Popovich's teams usually do,
Right.
It's going to be a long night for San Antonio.
Absolutely. Well, before we get to our usual fun 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and the daily menu, let's go back and chat a little bit about our buddies at Caesar Sportsbook. As we said before, they've got a special deal for winners and whiners that can only come from Caesar's Sportsbook app because they're the ones that give Caesar's rewards, which of course are the best rewards that you can get anywhere. Now, here's the deal. New signups. They're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50. Use that promo code right there in front of you, Windsor. Okay? Now, again, new signups. They're going to match your first deposit with a free bet up to $1,500 when you deposit at least $50 using our promo code. All right, Windsor. So there you go. All the information in the show box below. Also, we have a cool deal from BetMGM. All that information in the show box below. All right. Again, as always, you must be 21 years of age to participate. And as we always say, by all means, gamble wisely and responsibly. All right. So let's go forward 2 for the money, my friend.
All righty.
Go. Bingo.
Well, we just talked about the top 2 there, the Bulls and the Hornets. The Hornets don't stop anyone defensively. Chicago's due to bounce back. I'm assuming sooner or later the Bulls will remember how to play defense. They've been allergic to it of late. But facing a Charlotte team that also doesn't know how to play defense, it works in their favor. As far as Cleveland, San Antonio, we just talked about the Spurs. They've struggled on the road. They've struggled on defense. Cleveland might be one of those teams like we talk about it when we've talked about the NFL with the Bengals being ahead of schedule. Cleveland is probably ahead of schedule. You look at that team, there's a lot of young guys.
Mm-hmm.
Lee, Garland, Jared Allen, he's finally getting a chance to actually get a full-time role. So, I mean, Lauri Markkanen, he's been around for a while, but he's still young considering the way the league is. And, Kevin Love has played decent basketball, but I like the Cavaliers at home. Sorry, Jim, I got to go against South Florida again. Cincinnati's a good basketball team. And, I don't know if the Bulls can pull out back-to-back upsets, even at the Yuengling Center. I have to think that Cincinnati can wash away the bad taste of that 22-point stomping they took at home against Houston over the weekend and get the win over the Bulls. Then we talked about Calgary and Vegas. We're not taking anything away from Vegas. They're a talented team, but they're playing a second game of back-to-back here. Calgary has momentum, and they're at home. I like the Flames to prevail there.
I have two schools that I went to, the University of Florida and the University of South Florida, and neither of them playing well in basketball this season. So, you got to take the good with the bad. All right, so 2 for the money, which, by the way, had you played our 2 for the money yesterday, you would have got money.
We faded both the LA teams.
Yeah, we definitely did not follow up on Randy Newman's song "I Love LA." Yesterday, we loved them for a totally different reason.
Well, see, it could be "I love LA," and then in parentheses it could say "to lose."
There you go. Exactly. All right. So we are moving from 2 for the money, 4 for the show.
Yep. San Diego State. I didn't put the money line up because it's horrible, but they're favored over San Jose State. We know the Spartans have been bad. Meanwhile, the Aztecs, they're playing good basketball. They lost to Colorado State by 1 last week. Then they came back and they beat Nevada. I expect them to go on the road and beat San Jose State. The Spartans are not a quality basketball team by any stretch. They've lost 10 straight. Of those 10 losses, let's see, 1 was by single digits, and that was to UNLV. Meanwhile, 1, 2, 3, 4 losses were by more than 20 points, and 2 others were by 16. So it hasn't been a good stretch for Tim Miles out there in Silicon Valley. I don't expect it to get any better. The Spartans will drop to 0-11 in the Mountain West. Too bad for them. DePaul -8 over Georgetown at home. I know what most people are thinking. They're like, you're picking DePaul in a Big East game. Now, granted, DePaul's had issues in the Big East for, 2 decades now?
Yeah.
But let's face it, they beat Xavier on the road Saturday. They also have a win over Seton Hall. Georgetown has been awful when it comes to conference play. In fact, Georgetown is right up there with San Jose State when it comes to conference record. They're 0-10 in the Big East. And let me ask you, Jim, since you're right up there in that Baltimore, Washington, the triangle up there, how hot is the seat for Patrick Ewing right now?
I was going to say when you finish that there's a lot of love for Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, but there's also a lot of love for winning. And, they fired John Thompson III.
Right.
So if they can fire Little John, they can definitely fire Big Patrick. And I think they had great expectations. I think the problem with Patrick is he just hasn't been able to recruit. And you would think that would be something that Patrick would be able to do. He has had issues trying to recruit, and some of the guys he's gone after have at the last minute, made a detour in the other direction. And right now, frankly, Georgetown basketball is as bad as I've seen it in years. And so I when you say how hot is the seat, look, I love Patrick. He's a great guy, and I wish him all the best. But I just don't see I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel it's not like this Georgetown team is a young team that's got a lot of upside to it, and that's what's going to make it tough for Patrick to survive.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their 339th and 2-point shooting, and that's not going to get it done. They've lost 11 straight. They were 6-4 after they beat UMBC, then Syracuse, then Howard, and since then 11 straight losses. They haven't won since December 15th.
And they're not even good inside. I mean, that would be where you'd think that Patrick would be able to, bring in the big guys. I mean, who would not, what guy who plays either power forward or center wouldn't want to learn from Patrick Ewing?
Yeah, the weird part is their biggest big man is Ryan Mutombo, but he's a freshman and he hasn't started any games.
Right.
Then you've got Timothy Ikofe, who's a 7-footer that started 14 games, but he barely shoots the ball. I mean,
Right.
he's played in 14 games, and he's taken, let's see here, what is it? Not many shots from what I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 45 shots in 14 games. So, I mean, you've taken 3 shots a game, basically.
Yeah, that's not going to get you a lot of points.
Right.
Even let's just say, for sake of your argument, that he hit the 3 shots a game that he got. Not going to get there, but so yeah, we'll see. And then we got the Bruce Boudreaux playing the Isles.
Yeah, they're playing the second game of back-to-back. They're at home, though. They beat Arizona 5-1 last night, which we told you to take the Canucks with the puck line. That would have come up a winner for you. And Minnesota-Sacramento, this one's interesting because, these teams played yesterday in Sacramento. They're going to play again today in Sacramento. One of those quirks of let's slam 2 teams together in back-to-back games. Yesterday's contest was a real barn burner as the Timberwolves rolled to a 134-114 win. In that game, Karl Anthony Towns went for 25 points and 9 boards. Meanwhile, for Sacramento, they had De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes, and that was about it because, they traded away Buddy Hield, they traded away Halliburton, and of course, they weren't going to have Sabonis and all that on short notice. I don't think that you're going to see those guys tonight either. I haven't seen any information about it yet because they haven't submitted an injury report, mainly because of the fact that they don't have to until later this afternoon. So keep an eye out for that just to see if Sacramento somehow gets Sabonis and Holiday and Lamb in the lineup. But I think that Minnesota, they just whipped them by 20. It's not like even if they get those guys in the mix, it's going to take time for them to get acclimated to the new rotation and everything else. I think Minnesota will win again to sweep that 2-game set.
James has a quick question for you about Robert Morris.
Money line. Well, to be honest, James, Robert Morris doesn't have any business giving out points either. So, I mean, if anything, you'd have to call it a push. But I actually like Detroit Mercy here slightly just because of the fact that they have better offensive numbers with Antoine Davis. It's going to be a close game, but I think Davis is the difference. Davis and free throw shooting because Detroit Mercy shoots 77.5% of the stripe. They can actually, if they're ahead, they can actually, stay ahead by knocking down free throws. I'm not going to take anything away from Robert Morris. They're good at the stripe too, but they're too weak defensively for me to put faith in them. I know they've won 3 of 4 and 4 of 7, and they're at home here. But I mean, let's take a closer look. They beat Milwaukee, who has not been good. They beat Green Bay, who we'll talk about in a minute, and they beat IUPUI, which, like I said, you, me, Jim, Joaquin, D, and Sly, we could just run six players and probably still beat IUPUI. So I just don't have a ton of faith in Robert Morris.
Out in Moon Township, out by the airport in Pittsburgh. So we'll see how that goes. Good luck with it, James, buddy. We'll see how that plays. Let's go to our menu for the evening.
Yep, and as you see, I had Detroit Mercy on the menu, giving 2.5. They're on the third line. But
Yep.
before we get there, Loyola Chicago, they're on the road. The Ramblers just keep rolling along in the Missouri Valley. They're going to face Bradley on the road. I think that they can get the win there. Bradley's played some better basketball of late, which is a nice plus for them. They're back over 500, but they're going to run into a tough time tonight. Wright State over the aforementioned Green Bay team that can't beat anybody. They're not going to have any luck against the Raiders. Interesting thing about the Raiders, they started the year 2-7. Since then, they're 12-3. They've pushed themselves back over 500. They are now sitting 11-4 on the horizon. Puts them right up there near the top. Cleveland State's 12-2. Oakland is 9-3. Then you've got Wright State 11-4. So it's going to be interesting to see how things pan out there.
Well, Wright State started the season with two guys who were not eligible to play until the third or fourth game of the season.
Right.
So that might have been the reason they got off to a bit of a bumpy start.
Yeah, they turned things around. It basically started with that win over NC State right before Christmas. They went down to Raleigh. They beat the Wolfpack by 14. That was part of a 7-game win streak. And they lost by 3 to Youngstown State. They won 2 more. And they lost 2 in a row, and now they've won 3 straight, including that 75-64 win over Oakland on Saturday. Remember, we talked about that on Friday because Wright Mercy and Wright State had their game pushed back, and then Oakland and Northern Kentucky had their game pushed back to Friday. So both those teams played Friday and Saturday. Wright State's playing some good basketball.
Absolutely. And we talked about Detroit Mercy and Robert Morris. You spoke momentarily, just a minute ago, about Wright State getting things right against the Wolfpack, who you have fallen to the Deacons.
Yeah, I just don't have a ton of faith in NC State. They've been horrible. I feel bad for the way that things have unfolded for them. But, I mean, let's face it, they're not a complete team by any stretch of the imagination. And they just haven't put together any kind of consistent basketball. They started off okay, but since then it's been all downhill. And I'm just trying to take a look here and see how badly things have gone for them. I know they're at the bottom of the conference, I believe. Yeah, they're 3-10. They lost by 12 to Notre Dame over the weekend. They've lost 4 in a row. The games haven't been necessarily close. I mean, NC State, they started 7-2. Since then, they're 3-12.
Yeah, I mean, and the ACC isn't even that good this year.
Right, exactly. But, I mean, as bad as it is, they're still, they're right down there with Pitt at the bottom of the conference.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you expect it's one thing to, if the conference was good, you say, okay, well, they just can't hang with people. But when the conference is mediocre and you're that bad, that makes it even worse.
Yeah, because, I mean, you look at the conference and you've got 5 teams that are within a game of each other at the top.
Right.
Duke and Notre Dame are 9-3. Wake Forest and North Carolina are 9-4. Miami's 8-4, and then Virginia's 9-5. So there's no team that's running out there that's 12-1 or anything like that. We just saw Duke lose to Virginia the other day.
Right.
Wake Forest, they played better basketball than I think a lot of people expected. They're sitting at 19-5. I think they'll get their 20th win tonight. Yeah, James, I know Detroit's 4-11 on the road, but what's Robert Morris at home? Do you know?
I don't. Is this a quiz?
I mean, you're talking about Robert Morris is 4-6 at home, so that sucks too. Plus, Detroit Mercy, they did beat Northern Kentucky on the road the other night. So, I mean, you got to watch out for the Titans, and you got to watch out for Antoine Davis. Antoine Davis goes off. It doesn't matter where you're playing because he leads the nation in scoring, and that's going to be a challenge for Robert Morris. On the ice, the Dallas Stars, they're at home. They face Nashville. Dallas plays well at home. They don't play well on the road. I expect them to get the win over the Predators on home ice at the American Airlines Center. Edmonton over Chicago. This is one of those games where, Edmonton didn't score yesterday, so they'll probably score a whole bunch today. and Chicago is usually pretty good about letting another team score while not putting the puck in the net themselves. The Kraken. This shows you how bad it is. Where I have to pick the Kraken with the puck line because the money line. Look at that. The Kraken are a minus 225 favorite over the Coyotes.
Oof.
How bad? Now, how much of a dent is that in the in things for the Coyotes?
That makes it look like the Coyotes are the expansion team.
Yeah, you're a major underdog to the expansion team.
And it's not Vegas.
Right. It's supposed to be even Provitsov in net for Arizona tonight since Vejmelka started yesterday. Wedgwood's still out with that chest injury. Of course, Philippe Grubauer is going to be in net for Seattle because why not? They refuse to play Chris Dredger, which makes no sense. In the NBA, I like the Raptors to keep rolling against the Thunder. That would be Toronto's 7th straight win. We just talked about Minnesota, Sacramento. I look for that one. Yesterday's total went over. I'm looking for it to go over again tonight because Sacramento is one of the worst teams in the nation when it comes, or the league when it comes to scoring defense. Minnesota just hung 134 on them. This one should go over the number. And in the battle of teams that are terrible and playing the second game of back-to-back, the Lakers on the road, I'm going to back them here over the artists formerly known as the Portland Trailblazers. Portland lost last night, and it wasn't even close. They lost convincingly to, of all teams, the Orlando Magic. They lost at home by a 113-95 count, getting outscored 30-16 in the fourth quarter.
Now, come on, we like our Lakeland Magic.
Yeah, when you lose by double digits at home to Orlando, there's some problems, and there's some major problems in Portland, and hopefully it all doesn't fall in on Chauncey Billups. It's not his fault that the front office just dealt away all their players. Outside
Portland was the darling of everybody about 3 years ago.
Right.
And, everybody was like, don't sleep on Portland. Portland's going to be great. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you got two teams playing in Portland and Los Angeles where, the jerseys 3 years ago meant something. The jerseys this year, not so much.
Right. It's basically just, it's definitely a vast difference from what we've seen in the past. And somewhere Bill Walton is crying if he looks at the standings, provided he's not on some, stream of consciousness about something completely irrelevant.
Well, he's probably focusing more on UCLA these days than on Portland.
That's probably true.
He'd be better served to do that. Well, all right. Any quick thoughts on what the best parlay of the evening would be? If Chris King had to do a parlay, what would he do?
Well, I mean, let me take a look here. I got to pull up my screen because I actually marked one off. I mean, obviously I like Vermont. I mean, there's no doubt that Vermont
that's maple syrup money. Okay, yeah.
And, if I had to pair it with something, I'd probably pair it with Calgary just because of the fact that what we said. The home team is 10-1 in the last 11 meetings in that series. The favorites won 7 in a row. Calgary's rested. They're not playing the second game of back-to-back. And if you didn't want to go that route, I would probably go with the Cavs over the Spurs just because Cleveland is a good basketball team and San Antonio is not so much.
There you go. Any last questions from the class?
No, James said he was going to pull over to debate me, but I don't know what he can debate me about considering the numbers show that Robert Morris isn't that great. They may well win that game at home. I'm not going to say they won't. I'm just saying that I like Detroit Mercy a little bit better. Well, and like Sly said, Portland, they traded pieces. They've given up. Chauncey inherited 11, but he couldn't say no. It's true. I mean, coaching jobs are hard to come by these days, and if you pass it up, who knows if you're going to be on the list for whoever can somebody next.
Hey, by the way, speaking of coaches, kudos to Lovie Smith for getting the job in Texas, and then condolences to Lovie Smith for getting the job in Texas. So little bit of both there. Look, the good with the bad. To your point on Chauncey Billups, look, there's only 32 head coaching jobs in the National Football League. When you get an opportunity to take it, you take it. And, we wish Lovey the best. He, of course, took a Chicago Bears team with Rex Grossman, of all people, to the Super Bowl. So that shows you what kind of coach he can be.
And you are real quick about USA and China on the ice. I think, you have to back the Americans. I'm just not sold on seeing a lot. I haven't seen a lot of the Olympic hockey.
Well, China has there's been China hired some Americans to help coach them. So it's kind of an interesting situation.
I kind of like the reverse of figure skating, because it seems that all the figure skaters from Team USA seem to be from China or somewhere like that, somewhere in Asia, because every time you turn around, it's just it's a name that I can't. You see, like Aaron Chen was good the other day. Vincent Zhao was good. I can't remember what the other male skater's name is, but
I think Nathan Chen has a very good chance of taking home a gold too.
But I mean,
if he hasn't already done it.
They sent skaters to us. We sent some coaches over to help their hockey team.
Right.
I guess it was a fair trade.
There you go.
I still think Team USA, they should get the win. I know it's not the same as, when we see the NHL players on the ice during this time, but it's good.
I watch some of it, so it's kind of fun to see people that you don't normally
know.
Yeah. So, not going to say they're going to win a medal, but they're entertaining.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Any last questions from the class before we move out and get ready for Wednesday evening here? Going once, class. Anything else? Guess not. Well, there you go. Anyway, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying thank you for joining us today on Just
Scott and Scott at 3.
What's that?
I said, don't forget Scott and Scott at 3.
That's right. Scott and Scott coming up in just about a half an hour with Back to the Window. I'm sure they'll have plenty of entertaining things to talk about. And don't forget to circle your calendar for our big extravaganza on Sunday, when Scott and Scott will join us, and there may not be enough oxygen in the room for all of us. So by all means, check it out. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have a lot of fun guests, and hang out with us. You'll have some fun as we get ready for Super Bowl, which will be on Sunday, and it will be the last Super Bowl, likely, that Al Michaels will call as the play-by-play voice. He is at 78 years old, unlikely to sign a new deal with NBC. However, many indications are that he will be with Amazon doing their Thursday night package next year. So you won't lose out. You just won't see him on Sunday night, and this will probably be his last Super Bowl. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer to the Super Bowl, and we're going to start doing some more of those outstanding fun prop bets that you find that are totally crazy and a bit entertaining. And we'll also talk a little bit about the commercials that you're going to be seeing coming up on the Super Bowl too. So plenty of Super Bowl talk as we move closer to the game. And again, Scott and Scott coming up at 3 o'clock on Back to the Window. So for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying have a wonderful and a safe Wednesday. We will see you tomorrow, come Thursday, right here. Where else would you want to be but Just Parlays, 1:30. Okay? Take care.